Uh, Hello, Internet, or good morning, or good evening, wherever you might be in the world. This is Investigating Film for Dummies, and uh, I'm, um, I'm Gary from Chiang Mai, Thailand.
I'm Genevieve in Carlsbad, California.
And tonight we're going to talk, or in the morning, or whenever day it is, what time of day it is for you, we're going to be talking about The Green Knight, David Lowery's. I wouldn't call it a masterpiece, but it was definitely, for me, thought provoking, and
Hmm.
it made me run to the Google to be looking up information about the Green Knight. Uh, I'm a lifelong Arthurian, legend fan. I've been reading author stories since I was a child. I vaguely remember reading about the Green Knight when I was young. Percival and Lancelot and all the different Knights of the Round Tables, they all have their own stories. You know, uh, the most famous, of course, is Camelot with Arthur and Guinevere and Lancelot. But there's many. But every knight in on the Round Table had his own series of legends that they would go be written down or told, or ever how they presented the story through the ages. So the Green Knight is an interesting addition to all that for me. But first we'll get the reaction uh, from Genevieve.
Yeah. Well, I too am a fan of the stories, but I've forgotten. Well, no, I haven't forgotten. I just didn't know there were stories associated with the other Knights of the Round Table. I guess I just really liked Merlin and Guinevere and King Arthur. So I read a lot of books. I can't recall the names of them that had to deal with that, but I'd never heard of the Green Knight. I was a little interested. I did look to see where the sort of the origin story came from, and it was a poem, I guess. And I mean, I watched the whole thing, and it was, I don't know.
Have you watched any David Lowery's? Did you watch A Ghost Story?
Mm, doesn't sound familiar.
Hmm. Yeah, it was fairly recent. Casey Affleck was the star. I did not watch it. I probably want to go back and watch it now after I've seen this one. He's an A24 director, or an art, which means basically art director. I mean, A24 does all these kind of like The Lighthouse, and they do these these arty films. And so there's a whole following for A24, and I'm on like the A24 Facebook page, and it was more like a love-hate relationship. The people, the real A24 fans either loved it or they hated it.
Hmm.
So I think the hate came from, it was slow moving,
Yeah.
and if you didn't know anything about what this guy was trying to do with the legend, and how we tied and put everything in his visuals, then it's becomes like kind of meaningless, right? To
Yeah.
the casual moviegoer. Yeah,
Meaningless. I mean,
yeah.
it was beautiful to look at, but meaningless
Hmm. Yeah.
for
I mean, there's a lot of art films like that. There's just not they're not interesting to the casual moviegoer. You have to put some thought into it, right? Like I think what Steven Spielberg said, with like he said he'll go to a foreign film. He knows that this is a movie I'm gonna have to take more time with thinking about.
me.
It's gonna take participation of the viewer as well. It's just not going to be something you just sit back and eat your popcorn and and giggle about, right?
Hmm.
So this is definitely that kind of movie. There's definitely the viewer has to be a participant in the story itself, and what
So
they're what's going on. So
tell me more,
tell you more.
sire.
Well, well, yeah. Speaking of sire, well, the originally Gawain, that was the Gawain was a related to the in Celtic legend, was related to the because it was came up through the legends all the way from the Celts, from ancient times, was related to the sun god. And as you noticed in the movie, he wore the sun god. They wore the sun god crowns, right? So immediately he's making reference to that, David Lowery. So he's definitely done his research on this, obviously on these things. The story of Gawain itself is basically just the story of him going out to see, after he uh, tries to cut, after he cuts the head off the Green Knight, the story he goes out and he goes to that castle and he meets the woman. She offers herself to him and he refuses. And in the real legend, he doesn't actually offers himself up. He's a little bit more virtuous in the real legend, or in the original story. But in this case, he gives up a little bit, right? As like as you can put it. And then he, after he does this little game with the Lord and the lady, he goes off and he sees the Green Knight. That's basically the story. The Saint Winifred story about the nun, which is also a true tale. Well, I say a nun. In this story, she was going to be raped, and then she fights the guy off and he kills her. In the real story, this man wants to marry her, but she wants to be a nun, so he cuts her head off for it, and then throws it in.
When you say true story, though, you mean like it really happened?
Well, the Saint Winifred story could have happened. I mean, that could be based on real life, right? Now, as far as this Green Knight story, I think is an allegory for man versus nature. I mean, at the beginning, he offers, he's gonna with the Green Knight being the symbol of nature, and man, controls him by just cutting his head off and just controlling it with brute force. Whereas when he gets to the end and he gains more knowledge about nature and life, at the end of the tale, he submits to the Green Knight, and then the Green Knight sets him free. So he's born again. So it's a bit of a Christian allegory also. Then it was written by a monk, taking probably the stories from more ancient tales. And so this it's the born again. It doesn't have to be Christian, born again into a new spirit type of allegory. So anyway, all that stuff is in there. Now, I thought it was interesting how they kind of flipped the whole knight thing, because a knight is to be, there's 5 virtues for a knight. There's friendship, generosity, charity, courtesy, and piety. And this knight, this David Lowery's Sir Gawain actually flips all those on their head. He's not very charitable, is he? He's definitely not virtuous. He's anything but virtuous. He's not very generous. He's not a good friend. He basically goes against the grain of every virtue that a knight has. Now, maybe after he's born again and he returns to, but then he returns to his real life, which we don't really see. We only see the kind of the Last Temptation of Christ version, where he sees his life, what would happen if he became king, and what a nasty guy he would become and everything. And he decided he didn't really want to live that life. So he submits. So maybe after this experience, he'll regain some of those, virtues of knighthood. But before that, he definitely didn't have them, right?
No.
So
what was with his mother? What was with his mother? I didn't understand. What was that? What was she trying to accomplish?
Oh, that's another interesting. Oh, yeah. Good. Okay, so she's more. I think I'm pronouncing it right. Morgause, who is the sister of Morgan Le Fay, they're all related to Arthur by like a half sister, half brother type situation. Morgan Le Fay is pure evil, and she's a witch. This is the sister, and she. I'm talking about the stories. She had Mordred. Her son was Mordred, who ends up killing Arthur. It was the half. It's
right.
Morgan Le Fay had sex with Arthur and then had Mordred. So basically an incestual son. And then the son comes back later and kills Arthur in the last battle of Arthur had. And Morgause is the sister, and she's also a witch. And she's the mother of Gawain. So they're all related. And I think in the movie, I'm not sure how, in the legends, I'm not real sure how she fits in with the Gawain story. But in this story, he has her as kind of a manipulator of everything. She's like manipulating the son, and she's manipulating Arthur and to her own needs. And I thought it was interesting that Arthur looked so sickly, because that is part of the Wagner legends of the Ring. I can't pronounce all these German words, but of the famous ring cycle that Wagner wrote. Or no, Percival, I'm sorry. The opera Percival that Wagner wrote, has a sickly author king. And then if you watch the movie Excalibur, he's very sickly. So he's sick. When the king is sick, the land is sick. And when the king is healthy, the land is healthy. The king and the land are one. So,
Side note,
yeah,
maybe that's our problem in the United States.
it could be.
Our president is kind of, Sleepy Joe.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Uh,
I
he's done.
digress.
You digress. Yeah, I don't want to get into politics, but yeah. So anyway, Arthurian the legends are, are very rich. I could go on all. People lecture all day long on this kind of stuff. So, but David Lowery, I thought the director, he's from Irvine, Texas, strangely enough, which is our family has connections to Irvine, Texas. He's a Texan, and this is maybe his third movie. So he's only made 3 movies, and it's very much. And from what I've heard about A Ghost Story, which I'll probably have to go back and watch. He's very, really into this kind of this art style of movie making, like that other director who did The Northman. Did you see The Northman?
What
I thought
was that
was
one about?
Well, it's basically a retelling of Hamlet, but from the kind of the Viking,
Not that.
supposedly the original story that the Hamlet story came from the Viking legends.
I avoid those kinds of movies.
It was a great movie. Great movie. Had your girl from the Queen's Gambit a star. Is it a star? The guy from True Blood, Alexander, whatever his name. Yeah, exactly. Actually is the star.
I might watch it.
I thought it was a fantastic movie, much better than The Green Knight, in my opinion. And that guy, he's the guy who did The Lighthouse, the director, and then this was that one did a fairly good business, and people love that movie, so I wouldn't downplay it too much.
I watched it because my children wanted to watch it. So
anyway, but we're on The Green Knight. So I basically, all I can say is I enjoyed it. And if you're a fan of Arthurian legends and you want to see kind of a different take on it, and with interesting, playing with the legend and the allegories and everything, I would highly recommend The Green Knight. And your opinion?
I think it's beautiful to watch. So I say no. Actually, no. I didn't like it. I want to like it. I wanted to love it. Didn't love it. I'd pass. I'd say pass on this film. But if you're into that kind of thing, then God bless you.
Okay, so I think that's our review for today.
Thank you. I'm not very passionate about this film. It's very hard for me to give input because I just didn't love it. So I didn't hate it and I didn't love it.
Did it leave you dead inside?
No, it didn't leave me dead inside, but it definitely did not inspire me. It did not inspire me, and I like to be inspired or laugh or something. I don't know.
It wasn't a lot of emotion in it. About as emotional as it got for me was the Winifred's part of the story.
Yeah.
Which was touching and to me and sad, and then him getting the head and bringing it back. And again, that wasn't even part of the original Gawain tale. And maybe in some tales that I haven't read, it's in there, it's put in there, but and as far as I know, it's a separate story unto itself. And then this was kind of like, kind of thrown in to kind of like pad the movie a little bit more, maybe, because if you just kept the original story, it'd be much shorter movie, right? And it turned out to be a fairly long movie anyway. So maybe they should have just done the Saint Winifred story, or just not have that part of it in there. But again, I'm just second guessing the director, and I have no clue. I just know that it was kind of just kind of looked like it was stuck in the middle of the movie, right?
Yeah.
I kind of enjoyed. I thought we were going to wrap this up, but I kind of enjoyed the thieves. I wanted to see more
Oh, right.
of those thieves in the
Yeah.
movie. Either him hunting them down, but of course we're going back to old Hollywood tradition, where the knight's been wronged and now he's going to hunt them down and
Yeah.
either you know get some kind of justice somehow. But that didn't happen at all, right? So it went against all kind of expectations and it went against the grain. It did not follow, and I think that's the point of this director. He doesn't want to follow the traditional way of
Right.
doing things. He
And
wants
I
to kind
think
of
that
break the
that
mold.
brings it to the end for me. I feel like the reason why I didn't like it is because the word that came to my mind is random. It was just the whole movie to me was random. Therefore, I did not like it.
Random. What do you mean nah, I'm not sure what that means, but that's okay.
Well, just because the story, it was just, I don't know. I just didn't feel like there was a very cohesive element in the movie. I was confused. So what,
I see.
what was the point? That's all.
Hmm. Well, there was a point, right? And I told you the point, but
Well, I know.
that's okay. In each to his own, right? Some people had trouble with
Exactly.
the casting, which I like that director. Did you ever see the movie Lion or Slumdog Millionaire?
Yes, love Slumdog.
Well, that he was the star of Slumdog.
Oh, was he? Oh, I love him. I didn't realize that was him.
And in Lion, uh, he's also the star, which is a very good movie to watch. But to pick an Indian, Brit, I guess he's British, to play the part of was an interesting choice. And
Yeah.
some people question that choice. And then also his mother being, well, of course, his mother has to be Indian, but it doesn't matter. She could have been African American or Greek or who knows. It doesn't. In David Lowery's world, it seems like you said, it's random. It doesn't really matter. If anything stitches together exactly right, we'll make this. We'll just pull this together and make it work anyway, right? Kind of
Yeah.
attitude. So
Well, that choice, I thought that was the right choice. He was the right choice. But other than that,
yeah, he's a good actor. I think he's very I quite like him. And I was told for a long time to watch the movie Lion. I highly recommend that movie. That was I saw it on the air. It was kind of a captive audience situation. I was on the airplane and I had nothing else. I've seen everything. And I kept coming across Lion. I said, they keep telling me I should watch this, so I'll watch it. Turned out fantastic movie. They were right.
cool.
Fantastic. So I highly recommend that one.
Shot.
Okay, so good night, Internet, or good morning, wherever you are in the world. And this is Investigating Film for Dummies once again, coming to a close. Good night.